What is the algorithm of the birth and death? How the wheel of samsara operates? The law of cause and effect is the mechanism of rebirth, driving the wheel of samsara, and the karma is the fuel that power it. It keeps you trapped in an endless cycle of birth and death until you awaken to reality, the oneness, the eternal bliss, or the nirvana. This endless cycle of birth and rebirth is called the wheel of samsara. This world is a simulation, a game of individually experiencing physical sensations through 5 senses. This game has 31 levels of existence. The human world is the 5th level. Samsara comes from san, collection, and sara, desirable, symbolizing the endless birth and death cycle. This cycle arises from misunderstanding. People believe collecting desirable things benefits them, but fulfilling these desires leads to endless births and suffering. Being blinded by illusions causes you to desire more gameplay at different levels of existence. It feeds the illusion of me, I am, and myself, creating a false sense of individuality. This suffering stems from the endless desire to experience individuality by separation from oneness. Returning back to oneness is called realizing nirvana in order to return. You must understand the law of cause and effect, Anichcha samuppada, for that one must believe in rebirth. This means accepting that this is not your only lifetime. Our world is a choice machine. The role of this world is that when you are born into it, in the every moment of life journey, it presents you with a vast array of choices to select. These choices are influenced by ego, a misunderstanding called avidya, ignorance. You are invited to believe things like, this cause is worth fighting for, or this story is true, based on your ego-influenced individuality for measurements and judgments, such as good for me, bad for me, friend of mine, foe of mine, beautiful, ugly, etc. You select from the choices presented to you. The instant you believe in these choices, you attach yourself to the illusion. In Buddhism, the feelings tied to these choices are called asada, the root cause of attachment. This is linked to samudaya sathya in the Four Noble Truths. Attachment causes you to invest your energy in transient, fictitious things. Breaking the cycle of attachment and illusion. Attachment causes you to invest your energy in transient, fictitious things. While not inherently wrong, this leads to pain and deeper attachment. This attachment spirals into separation, deepening lifetime after lifetime. Each worldly choice keeps pulling you deeper into the illusion. You play long-running games across lifetimes to experience the individuality and separation, which leads to endless lifetimes and associated sufferings of births and deaths. This is the essence of life on earth, being not one. How to get out from this endless cycle? There is one way out. Stop choosing from the world's illusions. Instead, choose what your innermost truth offers you. By doing so, you begin letting go of the world. This opens the path to higher levels of consciousness. So how do you do this? The method is explained as follows. Before learning how to exit from the trap of samsara, you need to be armed with a little bit of know-how. Specifically, how a being or an entity is lured to get trapped in the wheel of samsara due to its curiosity. as the entities or the beings are very curious and wants to see, know, taste, hear, sense, and experience all. Just like in a fish trap, this curiosity was used against the beings to initially trap them and also to keep them inside the trap. It is just like some casinos use various attractions, like food, drinks, and other entertainments of addiction to keep you inside. Similarly, what keeps you bound to this cruel game of life and death, called samsara, are also attractions offered to please your five senses. That means visions to please your eyes, sounds to please your ears, smells, tastes, sensory pleasures through your skin. All these are dangled in front of your nose and come nicely wrapped in the form of love, romance, parties, properties, cars, wealth, family and friends, beautiful bodies, health and wealth, etc. And once you indulge in it, you keep wishing more and more of those. Why you wish it again and again? Because you got attached, bonded, a tanha, attached into the spot, to it in your own mind. These attachments does lead to great pain. Once you are born into this world, you start to play one of these three roles. You are either a victim or else a villain, a character whose evil actions or motives are important to the plot, or else a rescuer. Only three kinds of thoughts in your mind creates these bonds. 1. Excessive hatred, dvasha, creates attachments. 2. Excessive lust, raga, creates attachments. 3. Moha, or the ego, tainted wrongful decision-making and selection of the choices, creates attachments. Only those thoughts with excessive lust, hatred, or ignorance, moha, has enough energy to create these bonds, so it is only about 2% of the thoughts, abhi-sankara, in the mind of an average person that can create lasting bonds. And more you think about something or someone with lust or hate or misunderstanding or delusion, more you get attached and more you create energy of bond, called karmic bond, upadana. In simple terms, upadanas are your wishes or the desires. Strong desires or wishes in turn create defilements such as greed and lust and pollute the mind, which generates karmic spores in the mind called anushaya that get deposited in your astral body as asaya, the karmic embryos. You need to know that every thought that runs in your mind does not create those bonds. Only about 1% or 2% of thoughts may pollute the mind. Because of your lustful or hateful wishes and desires, and your thoughts around those, this ruminating thought process, thinking round and round on something, is called rudha, and stop thinking like that is called nirudha, through lust, hatred, or ignorance. Raga, dvasha, moha, you create karmic seeds called anushaya, defilements. Those karmic seeds, or the unfinished businesses, are the reason for the next birth. This is how the trap of samsara is formed. Upadanas are like an electronic tag attached to a commodity in a shop. How much you try to hide it in the pocket, you cannot leave the shop floor as long as you carry that thing with you. As long as you have attachments and wishes of sensual objects you hope to possess, tanha and upadana bonds, you cannot leave this prison of the unending birth and rebirth cycle of samsara. If you want to leave, then you need to clean your mind of the baggage and leave empty-handed from the world without trying to take anything with you, even in your mind. That is why it is important to clean up your mind from attachments and defilements. Since it is your mind, you have to do it by yourself, as no other external force can clean your mind for you. In nutshell, the way out from prison is not to have any desire for anything within the walls of the prison, the world. How do you clean your mind? in order to get released from the cycle of samsara will be discussed in the next video. Please like and subscribe so you will be notified. What you wish is what you get. Your wish is the command in this world of illusion. You need a physical body to experience the things you desired and wished. Therefore, with that wish comes your physical body. But the physical body is the second prison or the cage you fall into. Since the condition of the gaining of physical body is such that with the physical body you are wiped out of former life's memory with each cycle of birth. Thus, the entities forget the knowledge gained in the previous life, and having to start anew every time, they get trapped in this never-ending wish. This never-ending wish keeps the person bound, imprisoned, and slave to this vicious circle of birth and death called samsara. Also, those wishes are granted according to good or bad merits they earned in the past life. Just like in an ordinary prison, the prisoners are rewarded for their good conduct within the prison and those with bad conducts by tough conditions in the prison. The fact that with each birth cycle the beings are wiped out of their former life's memory leads to never-ending sufferings of a beings without realizing the reason for the sufferings in their current life. The most effective prison is one where the inmates does not know that they are prisoners. This world is a trap similar to something like that. What you need to know. To get released from this prison world, apart from having an excellent understanding of the principle of the workings of the trap called law of cause and effect, also called as Anichcha Samapada, or principle of the generation of attachments, which I had already explained the previous episode. One also needs to know 4 truths about the nature of imprisonment, or the trap called 4 Noble Truths. The other important knowledge you need is about the 3 qualities of the life inside the trap, called 3 lakshanas. 1. Anichcha, 2. Dukkha, 3. Anatha, which will be explained in coming episode. Once you really understand that, you are in the process of liberation by dismantling this trap. Since it is the knowledge that liberates you, there is no need to pray to any god for the salvation. While Buddhism does not dispute the existence of the higher godly realms and even talks about godly beings, what Buddhism teaches us is that your salvation should be made by yourself through your intellect without waiting for the help from any other force. Apart from the law of cause and effect, which was discussed in this episode and the previous episode, in the next coming episode, we will find out what is the 4 Noble Truths and also the 3 qualities of the world called 3 lakshanas. Please like and subscribe so you will be notified. May all beings be free of the sufferings of samsara. Before talking about the 4 Noble Truths, let me remind you of a summary of what we discussed in previous episodes. In the previous episodes, I explained that what keeps you bound to this cruel game of life and death called samsara are the attractions offered to please your 5 senses. That means visions to please your eyes, sounds to please your ears, smells, tastes, and sensory pleasures through your skin. All these are dangled in front of you and come nicely wrapped in the form of love, romance, parties, properties, cars, wealth, family and friends, beautiful bodies, health and prosperity, etc. Please note that there is nothing wrong with enjoying these sweet pleasures. These pleasures appear, stay for some time, and then fade. What is wrong is creating attachments to them in your mind. These attachments are dangerous. This is the core of Buddhism. This is the truth Lord Buddha realized with Swayambhu Gnana, his own intellect, while sitting under the Bodhi tree on the day of his enlightenment. He realized that attachments, or trishna, are dangerous because they lead to future inevitable sufferings, or dukkha, and identified the 4 steps needed to relinquish these attachments and be free from suffering. These 4 steps are called the 4 Noble Truths. He also declared that if you understand the first truth, called Dukkha Satya, well enough, then no worries. You will automatically understand the other 3 truths of the theory as well. Additionally, you will understand the next 8 steps to be practiced, called Arya Ashtangika Margaya, or the Noble Eightfold Path to Enlightenment, as a bonus. See how easy and structured Lord Buddha's teachings are. You need to understand only one truth about the world by listening. This is called having sama drushti, or gaining the correct outlook or vision through attentive listening, known as Sothavadanaye Panya. Once you understand this one truth, the other 3 truths will be understood automatically. Afterwards, your inner wisdom will take over and guide you on the Eightfold Path to enlightenment. By properly understanding this one truth, you will become an extremely rare person in this world, perhaps 1 in a million, called a person who has entered the path of enlightenment. Having that understanding imprinted in your astral body as a part of your instinct, you will gain full enlightenment, either within this lifetime, or if you are still busy with worldly affairs and lagging behind in practicing the Eightfold Path, you will have a maximum of 7 more rebirth cycles within the wheel of samsara before achieving enlightenment. What are the 4 noble truths? Truth. It is true that there is a trap within the wheel of samsara that causes future suffering, dukkha, in the journey of life by generating rebirth, Dukkha Satya. Truth 2. The reason beings fall into that trap is attachment or greed, trishna and upadana, and wishful thinking, samudaya satya. Truth 3. The fact that craving, trishna, can be eliminated, nirodha satya. Truth 4. Knowing how to relinquish attachment by understanding the theory of how attachment is formed, and practicing the path known as the Noble Eightfold Path to eliminate greed, marga satya. How do you know if you've understood the first noble truth and by default the other 3 truths? Once you understand it, you will start to feel great compassion for all beings, your parents, relatives, family, friends, and everyone in the universe, including animals, because you will realize that their suffering stems from not knowing this simple fundamental truth. Attachments lead to inevitable future suffering. In the beginning, you will feel a strong urge to convince others to listen to you so they can understand it too. However, since others are often preoccupied with worldly affairs such as careers, mortgages, raising children, and differing religious or political views, they may not be fortunate enough to listen. Witnessing this, a profound sadness will dawn upon you, like watching someone blindly walking towards a precipice despite your desperate warnings. You will overcome this expectation of that others should obey you as you progress further on the spiritual path, especially when you begin to understand the 3 lakshanas, or the 3 characteristics of existence. Then, you will relinquish the expectation that others should listen, but you will still feel the duty to share. For example, my son in his 30s was born and raised in an English-speaking foreign country and does not know the Sinhala language well enough to grasp the deep meanings of sermons given by Buddhist monks. Now he is very busy with his career and has no time to listen to my explanations. I cannot wait for him to reach an age when he will have time to listen. As a parent, My life is waning, and I have only a few short years left. So I thought, why not make a video in simple English that he can watch someday, even if I am gone? That is my duty as a parent. Then I thought, why not add Sinhala captions so not only my son, but others can benefit too. In the next part, I will talk about the first noble truth. What is true suffering? The true suffering is something that only a Buddhist person on the path to enlightenment truly understands, while others, sometimes even some Buddhist monks, do not understand. Then what about Christians, Muslims, Americans, Russians? Why is it hidden from them? Apparently everyone knows what suffering is. Strange, isn't it? So what suffering are we talking about? What is the difference? We will discuss it in the next episode. Please like and subscribe so you will be notified. May all beings be free from the sufferings of samsara. In this part, we will talk about the first noble truth called Dukkha Satya, which is the truth about suffering. At the end of the previous episode, I mentioned that true suffering, or Dukkha Satya, is something only a Buddhist person on the path to enlightenment truly understands. Sometimes even Buddhist monks are not able to grasp it. Why is that? So, what suffering are we talking about? What is the difference? Understanding preventable and unpreventable suffering. Unpreventable suffering, vipaka dukkha. Resultant suffering that is too late to stop, caused by past attachments. This includes physical pain, illness, aging, and death, natural consequences of having a physical body. Preventable suffering, dukkha satya. Future suffering that can be avoided if we act now. This suffering arises from attachments, expectations, and cravings that continue the cycle of samsara. Why do we suffer physically? Because we have a body which exists due to past desires, trishna, and attachments, upadana. Can we change that now? No. It's like the saying, you made your bed, now you must lie in it. The focus of Buddha's teachings, preventable suffering. The Lord Buddha's teachings focus on preventable suffering, dukkha satya. It's about ending future suffering by cutting desires at the root, stopping endless expectations, cravings, trishna, and preventing attachments, upadana, thereby breaking free from samsara. This is the suffering we refer to in Buddhism. That is why it is said, dukkha, dukkhamave, dukkha satya nove. Unpreventable suffering is indeed suffering, but it is not the preventable suffering mentioned in the Four Noble Truths as dukkha satya. What causes suffering? Suffering arises from endless expectations, desires, wishes, or cravings, trishna, and not recognizing the fundamental truth of uncontrollability, Anichcha, which means things or people do not stay or behave as you desire or expect them to. Reflection exercise. True or false? You expect your children to behave as you like. When they don't, their Anichcha nature causes you suffering. True or false? You expect your health, wealth, relationships, and possessions to remain as you wish. When they change, it causes suffering due to their Anichcha nature. True or false? You expect your car to stay as you like, running well and not broken. When it is not happening, it makes you unhappy and suffering. True or false? You can apply this to anything in the world, and the answer will always be true. Key insight Uncontrollability, Anichcha, leads to suffering, Dukkha. To find relief, we must practice relinquishment, Anathma, realizing it is fruitless to hold on to expectations and cravings. The three lakshanas, universal characteristics. Anichcha, uncontrollability, the ever-changing nature of all things. Dukkha, this uncontrollability leads to suffering. Anathma, freedom comes from letting go of attachments, desires, and expectations. Buddhas appear in the world to explain these concepts. That is why it is said, Attakara tini pada sambuddhena sudesita. Nahi silavatan hetu upajanti tathagata. The Tathagatas do not come to give rules about behavior, but to teach three truths: Anicca, Dukkha, Anattha. How to break free from suffering. Lord Buddha defined suffering as follows: Jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, maranampi dukkha, soka parideva dukkha, domanassa upayasa dukkha, piyehi vipayogo dukkha, apiyehi sampayogo dukkha, yampicham nalabhati tampi dukkha, sankitana panchupadana kandha dukkha. Translation: birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, separation from the loved, association with the unpleasant, not getting what one desires. All these are suffering. In short, clinging to the five aggregates is suffering. That means you cannot control your birth, jati. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control your aging, jara. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control your death, marana. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control the appearance of the moments of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. You cannot control the appearance of enemies or unpleasant ones. This Anichcha nature leads to suffering. Not getting what one desires is suffering. In short, the five aggregates affected by clinging are suffering. The root insight, suffering, arises from not understanding the nature of Anicca, uncontrollability. We suffer because we expect things to remain constant in an ever-changing world. When we let go of these attachments, anatta, we free ourselves from suffering. Final reflection, Anicca, shows us that nothing is within our control. Dukkha is the suffering that arises from resisting this truth. Anatta is the wisdom of letting go, relinquishing, and finding peace. The path to freedom lies not in controlling the world, but in understanding its nature and relinquishing attachment. How to relinquish attachment and be free from suffering? What is the practical method for a normal young person, like my son in his early 30s, can practice? We will discuss it in the next episode. Please like and subscribe so you will be notified. May all beings be free of the sufferings of samsara. In the previous part, I told you that we would discuss the practical method that a normal young person, like my son, in his early 30s, can practice. The person who had listened and understood the theory part of the Dhamma is called Sotapanna, meaning the person who entered the path to liberation. Being a Sotapanna means your initial vision is cleansed, drushti vishuddhi, meaning you have clearly understood that ignorance, failing to realize the nature of anicca, uncontrollability, leads to desires, expectations, and attachments, trishna, which in turn cause various forms of suffering, dukkha, in samsara. The path to freedom is through relinquishment, anaththa. If you had followed the previous 5 parts and firmly convinced that the above said is the truth and the relinquishment is the true path to freedom, then your vision is being cleared and you grasp the idea. You got convinced that this is correct and decided to follow the path. Now it comes to the question, what is the method or the path you need to follow in order to completely change the mind and disconnect attachment from your mind so you can stop future suffering? The shortest answer is, think in the opposite direction, not the way you are sheepishly directed to think by the normal worldly way of thinking, but thinking in the way opposite to how other people think. By doing that, you can stop participating in the game of generating extreme emotions and desires. Neutralize the wave of high and low extremes of emotions and settle in a serene, tranquil midline. This is called taking the middle path, or the Madhyama Pratipadawa, the path. What is the path to follow to change your mind, to keep your mind tranquil without getting agitated? The path you should follow is so easy that you do not have to leave your family, work, or everything in life behind. You do not need to go to the forest to look for trees to sit under in order to meditate on your breathing. Following this path, you can practice at any time, anywhere, in any posture, while working, relaxing, traveling, shopping, watching TV, or while going to sleep in bed. The only requirement is that you should be watchful of the thoughts that come to your mind. The method. A little bit of theory. Before explaining the practice part of the method, when someone asked what is the Nirvana, or the liberation from the trap of samsara is, Lord Buddha mentioned the following: Raga Shayo, Dvasha Shayo, Moha Shayo, Nibbānam. That means not generating raga, meaning that overly attachments, passion, lust, cravings, desires, or expectations, not generating dvasha, meaning overly dissension, dislikes, intense animosity, or hatred. Removal muha, meaning that removal of ignorance, delusion, wrong choices, misconception of not seeing and knowing the real nature of uncontrollability, Anichcha, in the world around you. Thus, gaining the wisdom of seeing and understanding the nature of things as they truly are is the Nirvana. Hence, Nirvana is a condition of mind you gain when you are neutral to the outside world and have the ability to see things in true perspective. In a world where others are running like mad, chasing their insatiable desires, you have stopped chasing illusions. This path, or the method you need to follow to gain this everlasting mental peace and tranquility, is called the Mārga Satya, which means the true path to follow. According to scriptures, Lord Buddha said the following: I promise you this, if someone practices this method given here, then that person, depending on the person's intellectual ability, will either attain realization of nirvana in a minimum of 7 hours, a medium time of 7 days or 7 months, or a maximum of 7 years. Such is the power of these techniques. Even if you have not gained any of that, living this way is very satisfying and peaceful with less problems in life. Practice part of the method. The practice part contains 2 sections. First, calming the mind, samatha, then analyzing the thought, vidarshana. 1. To remove dvasha or anger from the mind. At any time, anywhere, when a thought of hatred or fire of anger, dvasha, comes to your mind, you should be observant and recognize that a train of angry and fiery thoughts is forming in your mind. Example: you are driving your car and someone overtook you from wrong side of the road. Once you detect that in your mind, anger started burning like a skillful firefighter, you should stop forming those thoughts by utilizing thoughts of loving kindness. A. Samatha Bhavana, calming meditation, utilizing loving kindness when anger arises, Think like this: Metha Nusathi, or loving kindness meditation. May peace be upon this world. May all beings be happy and well. May all beings are infinite and boundless, of pure light, filled with love, compassion, and kindness for all other beings, even the slightest thought of harming another being never occurring in their minds. May all beings attain Nirvana and be free from the sufferings of Samsara. Once the anger is subdued, like a skillful firefighter who removes hazards that may cause potential future fires, you must find the cause of the anger in your mind and remove it by analyzing its origin. B. Vipassana Bhavana Insight Meditation, utilizing Marananasati, uncontrollability of nature. Analyze the thoughts occurring in line with the trilakshana, the three qualities of existence, starting with the uncontrollability of everything, through thoughts of Anichcha, Dukkha, and Anathma. This is called Marananasati. Think like this: Anichcha, or the universal truth in this world, it is that things or people do not stay or behave as I want them to be. The expectation that material things or people will always behave as I desire is the root cause of all preventable sufferings in the world, dukkha. Therefore, me having such high expectations is nothing of substance and useless, a futile pursuit, anatta or asara. C. Sweeping the mind clean with Buddha Nusathi. Think: why should I get angry with those who are suffering due to their delusion and ignorance? They get angry because they believe everything should happen according to their wishes, which never happens. I should not be that kind of ignorant fool to get angry at them. By practicing this method, you will gradually become less and less angry person over the time, to remove raga or lust from the mind. At any time, anywhere, when a thought of craving or lust arises, be watchful and identify that an attachment is forming in your mind. For an example, while driving down the road, you may see someone with a very attractive appearance, which causes you to have feelings of desire in your mind. Once detected, like a skillful firefighter, subdue it with thoughts of undesirability, asubha nusathi. A. Samatha bhavana, calming meditation, utilizing undesirability, asubha nusathi. Think: this physical body is made of an erected skeleton bound by blood-soaked veins, filled with pieces of meat, and covered by skin. This body is no different from a cadaver. The consciousness that possesses it is trapped in samsara due to ignorance. Because of ignorance of Anichcha, uncontrollability, I am again being lured into this endless cycle of birth and death. B. Vipassana Bhavana Insight Meditation. Reflect on Anichcha, Dukkha, and Anathma to see the body's impermanence and suffering. This body is, as well as everything else I believe as mine, or should be mine, are subject to Anichcha nature, does not stay or behave as I wish. Hence, it is the reason for dukkha, the sufferings, and it is the cause for all sorts of disastrous outcomes, anatha. Because of that, it is not a thing to get attached to. Sweeping the mind clean with Buddha Nusathi. Think: why should I crave a body which is subjected to aging, sickness, and death? I should remove this delusion from my mind. By practicing this method, you will gradually become less and less greedy and lustful person over the time. 3. To remove muha or ego from the mind. The method is par at any time, anywhere when a thought of wrongful assessment of the ego, muha, comes to your mind. You should be watchful to identify that a thought train of wrongful assessment and ego are forming in your mind. For an example, you saw that your neighbor has bought a beautiful, expensive car. A thought occurs in your mind that you should not to be outdone by the neighbor. You should also purchase a better and more expensive car. Once you detect that, like a skillful firefighter who remove the cause of the future fires, you also need to find the cause of the ego in your mind and remove it with the thoughts of Anichcha, Dukkha, and Anathma, Marana Anusasati. That means thinking, everything I believe as mine or should be mine, including properties such as car, are subject to Anichcha nature, does not stay or behave as I wish. Hence, it is the reason for dukkha, sufferings, and it is the cause for all sorts of disastrous outcomes, Anaththa. Because of that, it is not a thing to be get attached. Finally, you should sweep clean your mind of any leftover residue of lust with Buddha Nussati. That is thinking. Why should I get craving for those things or get into the rat race of getting material things with other deluded people who are subjected to all sorts of sufferings in the samsara, including aging, sickness, and death? I see their processions as attractive due to the delusion and ignorance still left in my mind. If I do not remove it, then I will also be lost in the illusions of this fearful samsara. Hence, I should do my best to see the reality of this world and completely remove those unnecessarily competitive, delusional thoughts. That is all you need to do and need to know. In this video series, I explained you the core of the Lord Buddha's real teachings, which took me 50 years of my life to grasp while separating the wheat from the chaff, as true teachings were distorted over the time. If the poorest and poor boys like Sunitha and Sopaka could understood this, and alcoholic Sarakani and slave girl Rajumala could grasp this truth, then it is very unfortunate that if my son or you could not get it in to the head. Anyway, as a parent, I did my duty. Note: keep thinking in the above way. At any time you can find a moment to spare. Not only while you sit and meditate, which usually happen very rare in a practical, busy world, but do it when you sit in a train or bus, when you drive to work, when go to sleep, or when you eat. If you had really followed and taken time to understand what I have told in this series of videos from the beginning to the end, totaling about half an hour, and practice the way I told you to think, then very soon your materialistic outlook of the world will start to change. Using these profound techniques, even within this lifetime, you can live a fulfilling life without suffering, gradually breaking free from the mundane world just by changing the way you think. You will become more patient, more tolerant, kind, compassionate, and emotionally stable and happier person. Nothing can shake you, as you will be immune to mental sufferings. Therefore, true Buddhists will never suffer mental breakdowns or depression, as they understand the true nature of things. May peace be upon this world. May all beings are happy and well. May all beings are infinite, boundless, beings of pure light, filled with love, compassion, and kindness for all other beings.
Sarvesham Shantir